Hey everybody, I'm Tommy and you are on the boat. Sandy Wendy, good to see you. Hello, Valerie Nagy, you caught alive. How good is that? I'm going to wait too. I'll play a game or something. So good morning. Good morning to you too. I'm glad that you are here. Yes, I ran a little bit late on account of the fact that I was looking some stuff up. So the Little House of the Prairie star, Melissa Gilbert, came out and had social media presence again, right? She's been ducking social media. She had deleted her Instagram account, shut it down. I don't know if it's deleted or just it's removed. You can, it's one of those platforms that you can time it out, get rid of it and bring it back, but it is currently not up and running. And she caught some crap early on about, doing some stuff for her brand. And this was back in January. But on the 31st, she came out again and it showed her and a couple of friends, and they were in the kitchen sort of dancing, eating ice cream, drinking, having a good time. And there's a lot of people that are coming out about this and thrashing her. And honestly, I don't know where you go with this one. Does it seem tone deaf? Yeah, it kind of does. However, what are you supposed to do? Right? You're going to live the rest of your life not making any statements or any comments and just running and hiding. I mean, I guess that's a possibility, but that's not what she's doing. And the way it was framed was, good friends who stick by you during really tough times. It has been announced in the last 24 hours or so that she also came out and said she's got a show that's coming up called an Ask Me Anything show, AMA. I've done them on here. Hey, Renee B., good to see you, where you can come on and literally just ask any question you want. And Nancy Grace, some other people were commenting on how that's insane, right? This is probably not a time to do an Ask Me Anything show. However, that Ask Me Anything show, from what I've been able to research, was something that they announced back in January, shortly before all of the evidence came out about her husband, and she canceled it immediately after we found out everything that was going on with her husband. Man, oh man, is it hot here. Sorry, people. But it's a warm day here in Ecuador, right on the equator. It is warming up a bit. So here's the deal on this. The Timothy Busby case, Hollywood would tell you that it's over. There's nothing to this case. The kids have already come out and said, they changed their story. I've said this. I'll continue to say this. These were police officers, and it was the first time these kids had ever had to have any interaction with cops. It's a lot different than when you're having interaction with somebody in the healthcare industry, in the mental health industry, someone who's a professional who can get the kids and put them into a safe environment. Doing it at their own house causes issues. The fact that Timothy Busfield was their boss and was responsible for the financial success of the family, all of these things play a factor. The truth of the matter is it is far more common for kids to deny it in the beginning. And this was their first official interview with police. That's not strange. However, it has been framed that the parents are con people, right? And since they've been in trouble with the law before, obviously they would coach their kids on this to get them to be able to make money for them. I don't think that those things equate to one another. Incognito, good to see you. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sorry. I've known a bunch of criminals in my life. Most of them do, sort of have a line that you won't cross. And trying to have your kids represent that they had been sexually assaulted is just something that that's too far a line. I don't believe. I'm sorry. Just because these people had broken the law before doesn't mean that they would be willing to do that. Cliffan, good to see you. Now, there's also something else that has recently come out, and you guys know who Julia Roberts is, right? Pretty woman. She has a brother named Eric Roberts. Eric is married to a woman named Eliza. All right, did we get that? Where this is? So it would be Julia Roberts' sister-in-law, right? Her brother is married to Eliza Roberts and has been for a long time. Eliza Roberts came out in 1994. And took a deposition. And this deposition had to do with Little Big League. Put a 2 in the chat if you've heard this, if you've already heard her statements, because they are absolutely extreme. I mean, they really, really are extreme. They're also particularly graphic. And I think it paints a more interesting picture, sadly, of who we're talking about with Timothy Busfield. Now, people will say, well, you know what, that's in the past, and people do things and they rehabilitate. If this is a predilection, if this is something that there's a mental illness there, and he is a person that likes to sexually assault people, he's not going to get cured of it. That's not something that people get cured of. It's just that simple. They'll reoffend and they'll do it hundreds of times over the course of their life. So here's what happened. The Little Big League was a family comedy filmed in 1993 in Minneapolis, and it was released in 94 with Busfield playing the manager of the Minnesota Twins. At the time, there was a 16-year-old girl, 17 years by the time she made the complaints. But she alleged that Busfield invited her to a trailer on set, provided her with alcohol, despite her being underage, and made sexual advances and then physically assaulted her. She filed a civil lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court in 1994 seeking damages for sexual assault and battery. Then Roberts comes forward. Back then, not 2 days ago, she back then came forward and said, I read about this in the newspaper and the same thing happened to me. And her allegations were, and we're going to talk about these, we're adults. This is unpleasant, right? And I'm not going to quote it because some of the language is a little rugged. I'll church it up a little bit, but you'll get the basic idea. She started out with Busfield complimenting her, and he shifted to topics like marriage, passion, sex, divorce. He reportedly said that he was attracted to her, insisted he would be great in bed, and made graphic propositions, including offers of oral sex and derogatory comments about his then wife being a lousy, right, with the F. Roberts described him as blocking her car window as she tried to leave, continuing with explicit remarks like wanting to know how you taste and what brings you to the finish line. What makes you have an orgasm? He used the C word, right, for having an orgasm, but he wanted to know what made her come. Sorry. She characterized his behavior as that of a creep who harassed and humiliated her, and she compared him to a rapist who compulsively and indiscriminately targets women. Man, you don't get a lot nastier than that. And she said this back in the 90s. The teenager's lawsuit settled out of court in 95 for an undisclosed amount of money with no criminal charges filed. Why not? Why were there not criminal charges filed? He settled out of court for this and had to take the lumps on this. In 1996, he countersued the accuser's law firm for defamation, but the suit was dismissed and he was ordered to pay $150,000 in legal fees. Defamation, if you lose a defamation case, it's because the court determined that what the person was saying is true. That's not 100% of the time, but it's most of the time. The defense for defamation of character is the truth, right? That's some smooth talk, says Valerie. Yeah, right? That silver-tongued bastard. He really comes across almost like William Shakespeare in this, doesn't he? It's like a sonnet. It's one of those things that will stick with you for a long period of time. You think, wow, that romantic devil. The deposition remained largely private until resurfacing in early 2026 amid the Busfield's new criminal charges for alleged child sexual misconduct, where it is cited as evidence of a pattern of behavior. Roberts has reaffirmed her statement, saying in 2026 that she stands by everything she said then. She also said, there's something really wrong with us. I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. That there's something wrong with us if we are discounting the testimony of 7-year-olds, right? These were young men at the time that this happened, 7 and 8 years old. And to expect them to just be doing fantastic. Hold on one second. Sorry, people. But I'm running 16 things going on at the same time here. There's a lot of shows that are going to be coming out today, but I think it's important that we do not neglect this Timothy Busfield case, because the truth of the matter is the question becomes, why didn't the criminal charges get brought? He lost the case. This girl was underage. So you just pay her millions of dollars and you get to go about your merry way. Doesn't work like that for the rest of the free world, I assure you. For the rest of the free world, you get prosecuted for this kind of thing. Now, if you're a cynic or whatever, you can say, well, the burden of proof is considerably less in a civil case than it is in a criminal case. Maybe they didn't think they could prove it. I don't buy that. I think that they protect the Hollywood elite, and that these people get protected on a very regular basis. And it's enough to make you sick. It really is. So if we're going to allow Hollywood to give us the narrative on this, then we're going to allow TMZ, and we're going to allow all of these players, right? These big attorneys that are going to, Mark Garagos, all of them that are going to tell us that, well, this is the greedy parents. And obviously, this is an ipso facto thing. The parents have been convicted of fraud. Ipso facto, they would definitely tell their kids to go in there and lie about being sexually molested for the purpose of making money. That's a jump. That's a massive jump. It really is. I think that most parents, even those that commit crimes, are better people than that. I'm sorry. Hold on, folks. Personally, I think that that's a major insult, for real, to parents everywhere. I mean, people make mistakes. The father was an attorney, and he used his law license to steal some money. The mother apparently had worked over a car leasing company, right, and had been dirtbags to them. I was in prison with a lot of guys that broke the law. It doesn't mean that they would happily pimp their kids, and that's what this would be, right? This would be one of the most despicable crimes that you could ever wrap your brain around. And personally, I don't think that passes the smell test. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying you can't assume it happens. You can't go, obviously this guy used his bar license to do this. Surely he would coach his kid. And I think the way that we saw the prosecution come out on that with both guns blaring, they didn't say, well, we're moving forward with this, right? They said, we have been researching this for over a year. Hello, Ann from Mass. They said, we have been working on this case for over a year. We believe we have enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this man molested these kids. I think that when the time comes to go into court, I know that at the hearing that we just saw, they came in and painted the picture of these con men parents. You're going to have to weigh that in a court case. Is it too prejudicial, right? Is the exculpatory value or not the exculpatory, but the probative value of this? Does it outweigh that? Is it so important that we get this information that we don't worry about how prejudiced it's going to make the jury? Because it is going to make the jury believe, just like Harvey Levin, just like Mark Garagos, just like every lawyer that talks about this, oh man, this is a write-off. You can't believe anything those kids said because their parents are shitheads. I think that that's an absolutely terrible road to go down. You know what? What a beautiful thing to say. Valerie Nagy says, in the wedding photo, Reese appears to have a Mona Lisa smile. It's ethereal. It's one of those things that every time I look at it, that smile says something different to me. It's one of the reasons that I have it hanging up. I absolutely love it. I look at it all day, and it does. She has a very unique smile on that. I find it to be art. I really do. I watched 30-something back in the day. I am rewatching it now. I remember Busfield having alcohol issues in the press more than once during that period of time. Yeah, I agree with you, right? I remember this. This is a guy that struggled with alcohol, yet we know he's still drinking, right? Because the people on the set of The Cleaning Lady, if you're new to this case, The Cleaning Lady is a show that he was directing. He was the director of this show. This is where the alleged molestation of these two young boys took place, where allegedly he was touching them in the junk and in the backside. And he said in the interview, in his own words, there was a lot of tickling. No, he didn't say that. He said there was a lot of contact. They asked him if there was tickling that happened on the set. He said, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I really like to run a fun kind of family place. That's bizarre to me, right? And I know that there are people in the comment section that are going to say, so we live in a world now where you can't tickle kids? Yeah, I do. I think we live in that world. I think that people that aren't related to kids probably shouldn't be tickling them. And people that are related, if it's making them uncomfortable, then that shouldn't happen either. I'm married 35 years. I love seeing your love for Reese. This topic is unsettling. This topic is very, very unsettling, Lynn. It really is. And yeah, I'm pretty damn fond of her. It's, I think she probably says it best. We're two really broken people. You know, we came from some backgrounds that I'm a criminal and she's a survivor of a really vicious cult. But the two of us really love one another, and I think that's probably the most important thing. You learn to overcome a lot. She likes to say that most people don't know me, and I think that's probably the truth. You know, you think you know someone because you watch them on YouTube, but Reese knows me like few people ever have. And no, that's a terrible thing to say. No one has ever known me like Reese does. I have been very open and honest, and it has allowed me to move a lot going forward in my life. And I think that she gets the same thing from our relationship, and I think it's beautiful, and I appreciate that. It's a very nice thing to say, Lynn. Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing about 30 something. I didn't love the show when it first came out. Do me a favor. If you liked 30 something, put a 2 in the chat. If you did not like 30 something, put a 3 in the chat. Maybe it's because of the age I was at. Like, I was looking at 30 pretty closely. I was a man looking at 30 when that show was coming out. And I don't know, man. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I felt like every time I watched that show, someone was trying to sell me Dockers. Come on, man. You know what I'm talking about. Tell me it didn't look like one great big Dockers ad. Am I the only one who never saw it? You might be the only one that so you know what's funny? We have 2s, we have 3s, and MJ is just praying for all of you that watched it. She's like, yeah, you need prayers. You need prayers. That's where I'm going with this. Am I right, MJ? Is that what you were doing on that? Or are you like Big Al? We do the 1, 2, 3. You know, you do the Rochambeau thing where you do paper, rock, scissors. He would do this one. And we'd go, what the hell is that? He'd go, it's a pencil. Yeah, sure. You're not fooling anybody. Now she went for the 3. It must be so hard being physically separated from Reese, even though it's temporary. You know what? It is. But communication is kind of key. And she has a lot that she's doing. You guys don't even know. But there's a lot of really beautiful stuff that Reese is working on. She's going to be doing some speeches and things this year. And if I'm not her biggest fan, I'm in the running to be her biggest fan. So I enjoy watching her blossom professionally as much as I enjoy watching her blossom, as a human being. The distance that I've seen her come, I think a lot of times people lose sight of the fact that about the time everybody met Reese, she was just leaving a cult. And a little bit of grace goes a long way on that. She was leaving a cult. And it's given her, the amount, if you look at her now, she is more beautiful today than she was when I met her. And that's not something that normally happens. But as Reese comes into her own, she glows. It's a beautiful thing. And thank you. I appreciate all the support from all of you. It means a lot to me. Energy woman. Hope all is well. All is well. I very much don't want to let this subject matter die. I think that it is a massive injustice. And I think that the longer we hang out and study true crime, the more that we find out that, people say there's a 2-tier justice system. There is a wildly 2-tier justice system. You don't know who he was. I bet you do. He was in the show 30 something. He was also in Revenge of the Nerds, believe it or not. He played Poindexter in Revenge of the Nerds. So he has been in the zeitgeist. He's been out in the as part of our culture going all the way back to the 80s. She does look years younger now. I looked it up. I was born in Philly. The show was based in Philly. Oh, I'll be damned. It was based in Philly, wasn't it? But so he's been around a very long time. And I think the West Wing is the last thing that he did that anybody would have seen. Never watched any of that stuff. I'm not sure that if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to go out on a limb, Nina. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a good thing. I think it's an excellent thing, to be honest with you. He was the creepy one on 30-something. Then he went behind the camera. Correct. I think you nailed that. Valerie Nagy kind of nails this too. He was never a huge deal, and the show wasn't that good, says Ann. I agree with this. I don't think the show was all that good. He's been in a lot of films. He has a very long discography. He's been in a lot of films. He's been in a lot of television shows, but he's not, his net worth is under $5 million, right? So he's not a guy that was incredibly prosperous as an actor, especially for one that most people have seen in things. And certainly the name Timothy Busfield wasn't a household name until he got accused of being a child molester. Now his name is absolutely a household name. Probably not for the reasons, obviously, that he wanted it to be. But way back in the day, after coming off of the 30-something fame, which he got a lot of money for, that was a very popular series. Coming off of that fame, he started this theater in Sacramento, California. And it had a beautiful concept. It was going to be children's first exposure to theater. And they went around California and showed kids, real productions, stage productions. However, that is where some of the other accusations that have come out about him have come. Have come from. There was a 16-year-old girl. So we know of a 16-year-old girl. We know of a 17-year-old girl. And he absolutely sexually harassed the crap out of Eliza Roberts. And she's not a drama queen, right? She's this is a person that same with Julia Roberts. These are people that are, Eric Roberts has been in 500 films. Her brother has been in 500 films. They've been around Hollywood forever. But this accusation goes all the way back to 1994. The paparazzi yelled some questions at her just recently, and she commented, and she didn't get super into the past. She said, if I comment on that, I have to do it through proper channels. She said, but I think that we should be believing the young victims, right? And that's, we should understand how difficult it is to interview young kids. She also went on to say, but anybody that's doing stuff like that to kids should not be able to do it for 40 or 50 years later. That's pretty frightening, isn't it? Because allegedly this guy's been doing this for about 50 years. Yeah, the grounds of their home does look amazing. And here's the thing. She's trying to get back to her roots. If you watch the clip of her with her friends where they're talking about, it's very Little House on the Prairie like. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like, it's down home. It's wholesome. And hold on one second. I just heard a weird noise. Okay, yeah, listen. It's one of those situations where she's doing everything within her power to try to look like she's getting back to the roots of what made her rich and what made her famous. However, it's going to be one of those things. Hold on one second, people. If I blow my nose, it sounds like a flugelhorn. You don't want to hear it. I'm still waiting before I pass judgment on this, says Run the World. I respect the hell out of that. I mean, in all honesty, isn't that, I don't have any idea. Isn't that how everybody ought to be doing everything? It really is. However, where there's smoke, there's fire. And this guy has got, Eliza Roberts, if somebody comes out with this the day that the guy gets accused, it doesn't mean it's BS. But when you can tie it back to 1994 and she went in and did a deposition, and that deposition was very clear and very open and sort of honest about this. You're a weirdo, man. I don't know where the hell he comes from. That's the American way. Ignore abuse, discredit the women, rinse and repeat. Sadly, it is, isn't it? Where are the cats? Valerie Nagy, the cats are destroying the house on a semi-minutely basis. His character, Elliot, was a bit of a sleaze. He had a redemption arc. Good actor, but when Elliot interacts with his kids, it's uncomfortable watching today because of the accusations. Yeah, you know what? It's like when I watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off and you look at Principal Rooney and you see him around kids and you go, oh, you know what I mean? It's hard, isn't it? Johnny, Run the World, says, hello, Johnny. Well, she said, hi, Johnny. There's more people coming out, so I don't know. There are more people coming out, and there are rumors, right, on top of it. There are people that are not coming forward to say, yes, in fact, this is true. But there are a lot of people in Hollywood. It sounds, once again, Principal Rooney. Isn't that a bummer? It is. It's a bummer. The Principal Rooney thing is a bad time, and it's not something. The Principal Rooney thing is a bummer, but this is what happens, and every time it does, we're left saying, you know what? I love the character. You can love the character and not respect the actor, right? That's a possibility, and I don't think that they have to be one or the other. I mean, sometimes that happens. I love Kevin Spacey's work, right? Put a 2 in the chat if you loved the movies of Kevin Spacey. In Horrible Bosses, he was hysterically funny. In The Usual Suspects, that is an Academy Award winning, role. He absolutely killed it. Come here, Katy Perry. Come here, you big fat white cat. Boy, is she big. There you go. You wonder where the cats are? Ask and ye shall receive. Squirrel Nut Zipper is sleeping on my bed. In fact, I can almost see her from here. When I look over, she gives me her head comes up, but she's a bit of a diva. Squirrel does whatever squirrel wants. Katie, on the other hand, is still a kitten, so you can sort of talk her into, coming over to you. Squirrel looks at you like, what's in it for me? She's a cat. She's very much a cat. If I ignore her, she'll come over to me. If I want to talk to her, and she's a female cat. In fact, I haven't seen my wife here. She's a furry little Reese. That's what we call her. I'm not joking. She's furry little Reese. I mean, and there are just things about her that literally are so much like my wife. I'll tell you something else about Squirrel and Reese, though. Squirrel can't stand women. Like, she really has a thing. She loves men, but she does not like ladies. And she loves Reese. It's actually very funny. Not sure how it happened. I didn't mean to ruin your day on the Principal Rooney thing, but to be sure. So here's what happened with Principal Rooney, because every time I bring this up, people ask. He did not technically touch a kid, but he paid an underage boy to come by his house so that he could take inappropriate pictures of that boy. And that's what he was convicted of. 7 was amazing. House of Cards, MJ, I never saw House of Cards. American Beauty, he was amazing in that film, right? There are really so many. Yes, you are, Johnny Scoville. Sorry. But he left something over here, and he's like, I'm just going to come back later. I don't want to keep walking in. American Beauty was fantastic. There are so many movies that he was fantastic in. 7 was disturbing as hell. I don't think that anybody else could have played that role as well, right? He is a super talented actor. But you can be a super talented actor and still be creepy, right? And there are... every once in a while, there'll be somebody that comes along and you just have a feeling they really were a great person. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Reese is a huge fan of Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I think he was really talented. He's another one of those guys that everything he touched was great. And sure, he struggled with addiction, but it almost seems like everybody's got something a little bit creepy in their background. And that should make our antennas go up, our radar, because sure, Hollywood is bad, but it's also a target for anybody that wants to make some money. Right? Sad, but true. Nina, thank you so much. Hey, what are you doing? You little snot. Little paw comes up and grabs the top of the camera. I'm telling you, man, that's the problem with Katy Perry. She can stand about 4.5 feet tall. So she can look up onto things that other cats can't. It's almost creepy. You wonder if these people are damaged from the start, or brain damaged by years of substance, or damaged by the vileness of the Hollywood industry. It seems like it's never enough in Hollywood. Thank you again, Nina. That support means so much. You have no clue. I mean it. It's what keeps us. It's what keeps me alive and going. Incognito, I think this is a really great comment, right? Because it could be a combination of things, but I think that you're never told no, right? When you're a star, you show up and they say, there's a 2.5 hour wait to get a table at this restaurant. This is our business. Oh my goodness, Mr. De Niro. And then they instantly go clear a table or do whatever they have to do to make sure that you can get that table. You go to get on an airplane and everybody on that airplane knows who you are, right? I had the fortune back in the day of working with some famous people in a charity that I did. Muhammad Ali was one of them. Anywhere you went, I remember coming through customs with Muhammad Ali, and they didn't even touch my passport. Didn't even touch it because but this was going into another country. Coming back through the United States, we were treated like every other person. In fact, I remember him saying, Johnny Scoville was there too, but he said, everywhere I go, I'm treated like royalty. He said, I come back to the United States, I'm just another N-word. True story. But they're treated differently, and they have the ability. If you're really well grounded, then you're just going to be a person that's rich, right? But you're not going to be somebody that expects whatever you want, whenever you want, for no one to ever tell you no. And for a lot of these people, I think that this is actually something that's it's interesting in a terrifying way. But this is also with the Epstein stuff. And I was talking about this with the wife. You know, she's like, what makes these people want to do these things? A lot of these very, very successful people in business, a lot of these successful people who are actors or actresses or whatever, when they were in high school, they weren't particularly popular, right? Elon Musk was not the richest man in the world in high school. By all accounts, he was somebody that got picked on really, really badly in high school. And now they have all of the money in the world. And the only thing they sort of can't go back and do is go to the prom. And as sick as this sounds, I think that once you have everything, right? You have 25 properties that you live in. You wanted a Ferrari when you were a kid, you got one. In the case of Elon Musk, he has built a car that's faster than anything on the market. All of these different things. He was into space. He has his own company that's going into space. And you just get to a point where you've had it all. And the only thing that, left is, well, I'd love to get back and kind of have an opportunity to do the high school thing over again. And I think it's a fantasy that starts that way for a lot of people. It's dangerous. I think it's one of the reasons that we see so many female teachers that end up with a kid who's 16 years old. When they were in high school, that super cool 16-year-old kid wouldn't give them the time of day. And there are a lot of these people that are late bloomers, right? Who now they have an opportunity to hit on the most popular boy in high school. And I think it's one of the reasons people fall into the traps. We are wildly intricate psychological beings. And it's Ali was a great man. He really was, Valerie Nagy. He really was a unique guy. He was fantastic to be around. And there are a lot of people who are famous for whom fame is just a thing. And then there are people for whom fame is an identity. And fame means that you can do whatever you want. Sean Combs is probably the name that comes to mind first, right? Because it's fresh in our mind or whatever. But I can do anything I want because I'm famous. And it sounds to me that may be what we have with Timothy Busby. And I have nothing but respect for Run the World. And I think the right thing to do in all of these is to try to be as even-handed as possible so that we don't end up prosecuting somebody in the court of public opinion that didn't do it. And if Timothy Busfield had never settled these type of cases, if you didn't have somebody coming forward again today who in 1994 stood by this, in 1994 said, this man sexually harassed me. Fame sucks, says Johnny Scoville. There's something to that. Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal. I am kind of a big deal. I think some of the rich guys who participated on Epstein's Island had nothing else to conquer. I believe unaliving and cannibalism happened from what I'm reading. Yeah, here's the thing, Lynn, and I'm not saying that it didn't, but I read a lot of this stuff too. So I'll weigh in on this. I'm going to be doing a show on it, but I'll weigh in on this really quickly. Here's the reason that I think it happened. And not because of any of the bullshit. I'm sorry, the stories come from anonymous tip lines. Where I have a problem with it is when they said there are 4 million or there are 3 million documents that they released, and there's about 3 million that didn't get released, pages of documents. Why is it that they didn't get released? Well, because it may have not fell in line with the Epstein, the act that Congress passed that said all of this had to be released. If it doesn't fall within those purviews, it's not going to be released. If it's going to expose victims to possible doxing, then it's not going to come forward. And then they literally said, if there's child sexual abuse material on there, then we're not going to play that either, right? Obviously, they don't want to disseminate child pornography. Then they said, or if there's death. Wait, what? So there are tapes out there that there's death on. That's what they made it sound like, right? That's their words. Now, is that the truth? I don't know. We're going to, it's something that we're going to find out. But it's a pretty damn scary concept, isn't it? We're never going to get the whole truth with anything because they're designing it to not be that way. They could take out the stuff that they know is BS, right? They know that there was never a letter between Jeffrey Epstein and what's his name? Larry Nassar, the guy that had molested all of the girls from the gymnastics, right? Team USA and colleges. We know that that's bullshit because it was postmarked after his death. Then why is it in there? It's in there so that we will doubt everything else in there. There are so many things in there that are so patently absurd, but it allows us basically to go, well, there's so much BS in there that we really don't know. Wow, Aster, what a beautiful thing to say. I appreciate that. Yes, I did see the picture of that. In fact, I did a whole show on it. But that is an artist. I think it's evil as shit. Don't get it messed up, right? I think it's evil as shit. And I did a whole show on this where I showed all of the pictures and all of the artwork, which, by the way, belonged to who? The Podestas, right? The Podesta brothers. Terrifying shit. Absolutely looks wildly satanic. See, look, this is the voice of reason. Run the world. Proud of you. And I mean that because this is something that we should probably be a little bit concerned about. Ashley Banfield definitely put the spotlight on the son-in-law. And as I have said many times, her research is pretty solid. If this is something she says, I tend to give it credence. But did it hurt the investigation? Because if it hurt the investigation, then that's a problem, right? A big one. Let's try that again. I'm all about getting clicks and views. But if your clicks and views are starting to screw up the chances of somebody getting prosecuted, or way worse, if this somehow keeps this going, if this somehow enables this kidnapping to get into its 5th day, its 6th day, they shouldn't be doing leaks that can hurt the investigation. I mean, I think that's kind of a legitimate fear. Lynn says, I don't know, the son-in-law looks creepy. Let's see if we got a picture of him up here. I'm pretty sure I didn't take it down. It's probably up. Yeah. There's Tommaso. And look, I mean, he's got a very full beard. He's Italian. He writes Italian poetry. He plays the electric bass guitar. He's very interested in herbivores, particularly in his case, lizards, something he's super into. He is a 5th grade teacher, and he seems very, very normal, right? But how often do we see somebody that does a crazy kind of crime that is absolutely normal, right? This is something that we see all of the time. I'm just praying. I'm just praying that this doesn't happen. Do we know for sure he's not involved? MJ, we don't. We absolutely don't. It very well could be that he's involved. And then maybe he's not, right? You would think they would want to eliminate him as a suspect. So if you're the FBI and he's the last person, hey, Jersey and Alabama, and he's the last person to see Nancy before Nancy disappears, I mean, it would make sense that you'd like to take his vehicle, go through it, make sure there's no blood, there's no anything in it. Or maybe they're building a case. It's hard to tell. But I started to say this yesterday, and I think I got sidetracked. When Brian Koberger, when that case was going on, they were holding a press conference saying to us, we have no people of interest. We have no idea what's going on. At that time, they were already doing DNA on the snap off of the knife sheath. They were already plugging that into databases. They already had a pretty good idea of who they were going to arrest. I was watching JSP last night. He had the new video out and was talking about the son-in-law and the music he was into. And, his album was called Life, Love, Murder. Wow. Life, Love, Murder. Yeah, it's kind of a tough name for an album. But all these things, I mean, it's harmless until we think that he kidnapped somebody, right? It's just a band trying to sound like they're a band. But then once you add in the fact that this person may or may not have killed somebody, it kind of changes the dynamic. Presser at 1 p.m., maybe it will be informative versus the last one. Here's the deal. When these press conferences first started, the cop that came out was wide open with his mouth. He's actually apologized for it. He would forget and say things that he wasn't supposed to say. And I'm going to be doing a show on this, but to hear her talk about, if you happen to watch yesterday, they went on and made a plea for a proof of life. And Savannah Guthrie said a couple of things. One, she said that her mother needed medication to stay alive and that her mother suffers in excruciating pain every day without medication. That sounds like an opiate to me. That sounds like a painkiller. Can you imagine having an 84-year-old woman who didn't have pain meds and maybe has been taking them long enough to be dependent on them? I mean, I can't imagine kidnapping someone who then ends up dope sick. But imagine kidnapping an 84-year-old who ends up dope sick. It could literally kill her, right? So we don't know what the medications are, but to say she'll be in excruciating pain without her medicine, that sounds like an opiate to me. And if it's not an opiate, it's still going to be, I mean, I don't know. Like they treat amitriptyline, they use that, like the old Elavil. They'll take that to try to treat pain. There's a lot of different substances that they try to treat with. MJ says, I saw that. One of the other things that you saw then is her saying, but we live in a very modern time and videos can be faked and audios can be faked. We need concrete evidence and proof that our mother is alive. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but in my humble opinion, you don't say that unless you already saw a video that was fake or you already heard audio that you have reason to doubt. Like maybe they got something sent to them at the beginning and went, this isn't real. And now we're starting to wonder whether or not it is. Got to go. Time to shop and purchase my number 12 jersey. Go Hawks. Ciao all. You know what? I love that. Get out there and get that number 12 jersey. This may come as a shock to you, and I hope we're still friends. I will not be rooting for the Hawks. Kind of a regional thing. I'm not going to be rooting either way. I don't watch sports anymore. But if I was, heart meds, opiates, yeah, she's in a world of trouble not having them, right? I mean, really and honestly, Nina, this is a reality. If she doesn't have these medications, particularly, you know, I say all the time, you're not going to die from withdrawal. But at 84, it is a shock to the system. If she's been on opiates for 4 or 5 years and now she's going to have to go into withdrawal, this isn't what I'm normally talking about. This is not a normal situation. This is an 84-year-old person. It could be enough of a shock to a system to take a person out. It could be. I think social media has made a mess of our justice system because everyone seems to plead their case on it. I wouldn't speak to anyone except my attorney and the judge. Am I wrong? No, you're so right. It's incredible. Thank you again, Run the World. Your support means a lot. It really does. No, Lynn, I think you're spot on. Right? Very often these people are tried in the press. I mean, look at the Diddy case. Hey, Kathy, look at the Diddy case. You know, it got so out of control that we were being told about satanic rituals and tunnels that, you know, went from one house to another house. And I know there are people that still believe that. Those tunnels didn't exist. They didn't. I'm sorry, they didn't. Now, was there a tunnel under the house in California? There was. It didn't go out to other houses. You could pull the blueprints on that house. I did, right? And the one in Florida, it's on an island, right? I'm 100 yards from the ocean right now. If I stick a shovel in the ground, the first shovelful I take out is going to have water in it. If you're on an island, you're not digging a tunnel. To do that, you would need the Army Corps of Engineers. You'd have to be sucking the water out the whole time you were building it. It's not just as easy as making a tunnel. I'm also scooting. I have to go to the RMV. Is that kind of like the DMV? I bet you meant DMV. The DMV is awful. You know what does make the DMV go a lot quicker, though, and makes it a lot easier? If you're watching the lifeboat. Get on there, put on the lifeboat, and I will absolutely get you through that time where you're sitting at the Department of Motor Vehicles with people that don't want to help you and you're waiting for your number to come up. Spend that time with Tommy Scoville. Do me a favor, people, hit the like button, right? It does help push this out. And I say things I shouldn't say, so I need all the help I can get. And if you've not hit subscribe, please do so. And then hit the bell for notification. And in theory, every time I go live, they're going to tell you about it. You're going to get an update, and then you'll know to come and watch. I've got other shows that I'm doing today. There are 2 other shows, I think, that I will be getting up today. This is a very busy day in true crime. I think it's essential that we come back and we talk about Timothy Busfield. If we don't, and this is kind of a counter to what Lynn is saying, Busfield has already pled his case. He's already got a lot of other stars that are pleading his case for him, that are coming forward and saying, don't listen to these kids. This is their parents manipulating them. This is a dangerous ass precedent. Now, it doesn't sound like the police department is going to bend on this, right? They're still planning on prosecuting him. But we as people need to keep up on this. When cases fall out of the news, then there is a much better chance that they're going to pull the wool over our eyes, right? Think about it for a second. What happened to the Jeffrey Epstein case in Florida? They were talking about all of these different accusers. I am covering Savannah's mom. I've done 3 or 4 shows on it, and I will be doing another one on it today. Absolutely 100%. The Nancy Guthrie abduction, I think, is it has everybody on planet Earth are sort of on the edge of their seat on this. And the reason is, we're starting that close to hitting day 5. And if she doesn't have her medication, then her life is absolutely in jeopardy. And on top of that, it's just hard to abduct somebody that's that old and keep them safe. You got to have a safe house. You got to be feeding them. You hopefully are giving them medication. All of these things become very difficult. What time? If I had to guess, I would say I'm going to be doing it at about 2:30 or 3 o'clock on the East Coast. Let's call it 3 o'clock, which would be really 3:05 because that's usually how I roll. So about 3:05 on the East Coast, come back and I will be covering the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. Hopefully by then I'm going to get all of the information off of the press conference. Do I think the ransom note is authentic? I'll tell you what, I'd want to see it first, right? I would want to see it first. I think that the way that this email was sent to the family makes me doubt it. But allegedly, there are some things that were said in these notes that only the person that did it would know. Allegedly, and we don't know if this is true or not, but allegedly, they claim that in the letter it said, by the way, this was broken in the house. Now, maybe they broke something on the way out so that they could say that, or they accidentally broke something, but the only person that would know that is the kidnapper. But no one's verified that. This is just something that's like we're playing telephone, and it keeps getting repeated over and over again. Now, whether or not that's the truth, we don't know. Also, allegedly, they said, I'll tell you what she was wearing that night. There's nobody to back that up. She disappeared with the kidnapper. How the hell would anybody know what she's wearing? You follow me? And you could say she's wearing a nightie. Here's the other thing. I didn't go through every single picture on all the social media, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a picture of her in her sleeping garments. There's so much out there, people. It's terrifying. I'm leaning toward the son-in-law because of the cameras. Well, I think look, there's some logic in this, Lynn. There really is some logic in this because we're talking about, these are outdoor cameras. And by the way, I did a little research on Nest, and there are 2 types of Nest cameras. One of them would be like the one that we allegedly cut the cables on when we were leaving Kansas City. Pure silliness. However, that is one that is hooked up to electricity. There is a hard drive that is keeping the information on it. So literally, you have a device in your house that is digitally recording all of the stuff that's going on. Then they have the other kind of Nest cameras, which is more in line with what Quibs has. You keep this thing outside, you charge it, and on one battery charge, it can go 3 weeks, a month, right? And the reason it can go that long is it's not recording. It's just sitting out there until something breaks the I-beam, the barrier, the motion sensor. Once something causes that motion sensor to go on, it starts recording. It normally does it in 30 seconds or 60-second increments, depending on how you have it set up. If there's somebody that stays in front of the camera, so a 30-second would be a dog walks by it. It's going to turn on the camera. It sees nothing. 30 seconds later, it turns it off. If that dog were to stop right under the camera and look up at it and walk in circles and play with itself and kick itself in the ear, try to eat a bone or whatever, as long as the subject matter remains there, it should, in theory, continue to film. That is how Nest is set up. Nest, for those who don't know, is part of Google's family, right? By way of full disclosure, we all work for Google. those of us on YouTube, the Alphabet parent company owns all that. But Nest is a part of that family. And all of them, right, with the exception of the ones that are hardwired into the house, but they said her cameras were outside, which would lead me to believe that these were the wireless version of the Nest camera. On top of that, also the front doorbell, we tend to think of it as a Ring doorbell cam. Nest also makes one, but it's the same principle. When someone comes up to your door, that turns on the motion sensor. It begins to record them. By the way, everyone is talking about this. They went through the back door, or he, if there was just one person, but the kidnapper went through the back door and then walked all the way through the house with her. So they would have gotten her allegedly out of bed, right? But we don't know that. This is just what happened. Is the chief of police said, we can't have, we're not used to having 84-year-old women rousted from their bed in the middle of the night. Then he had to backpedal off that. He was saying, I don't mean literally like they ran in and grabbed her. But look, it's 2:00 in the morning. One would assume that she would have been in bed. But it also could have been, especially if she knows the person, they could have knocked at the back door. She could have gone to the back door and said, oh my God, is everything all right? Open the door. They got you, right? Especially if it's somebody she knows. Hello, Giselle. Glad that you're here. We don't know. There's so much that we don't know. Hopefully the press conference is going to give us a little more. But as I was saying, we were getting a lot from this guy in the beginning. We're not anymore. And the reason we're not is now when you see the press conference, sitting in the front row is a guy from the FBI. And he's looking at him doing this one. Right? Don't answer that. Don't talk about that. Don't give him more details. And the reason, it's not that they're just trying to deprive us of details, but a perfect example would be if they announced to the world that there was something broken inside the house and what that thing is, well, then anybody could do the ransom thing. But if somebody says, hey, I really kidnapped her, the proof is this one item inside the house is broken. This is why you want to control the narrative of what gets out, because all of that stuff lets you know if someone's calling in and claiming to be the kidnapper, their ability to answer questions that you have not leaked to the press will verify that this person is in fact the kidnapper. However, I don't know whether they're amateur hour, like we've talked about this, because they sent an email with the ransom demand to 3 different places: KOLD in Tucson, KGUN, KGUN in Tucson, as well as Harvey Levin over at TMZ. But no matter how you shake it, it's very odd to send something by email. Whether you use a virtual private network and a burner phone, there's a million ways you can go to try to cover your ass. It's still going to leave a trail that they can follow. It's going to be more difficult to follow that trail than if you were to just do it on your home computer, right? Where they know exactly who you are. But one way or another, the VPNs, the encryption, all that stuff, if they want to look and they can get a warrant for it, they're going to find it. Savannah had her mom on TV with her. It could be a stalker. She also, the mother, Nancy, has a social media footprint that is massive. And it shows the inside of her house. It showed the outside of her house. It shows her with her kids. There was more info out there than they should have allowed out. You know, if you have an aging family member, have them set their Facebook to private. It shouldn't be public, especially if you have someone in your family that is very wealthy or very famous or both. Because it looks like a winning lottery ticket to a scumbag. And I said yesterday, this is going to be desperation, right? The person that did this is desperate for money because it's not a sure thing. This is a very dangerous crime. The vast majority, more than 9 out of 10 of these fail. It's not a high success rate. They'd have been better off robbing a bank than they would have trying to get millions of dollars by kidnapping an 84-year-old woman who needs medication and needs to be really taken care of. Without a living, breathing person, then you made nothing. You can't ransom a dead person. I'm not trying to be morbid. I didn't know about Nancy's social media thing. It could be anyone. I went over to her Facebook page, right? When this first broke, I went over to her Facebook page and I was stunned at how much information was over there. I mean, honestly, there are pictures of the inside of her house. There are pictures of her with her kids. And it was all wide open. There was nothing like even her photos. You could go and look at all of them. It was Well, there was nothing private about it at all. It was very, very extremely open to the world. And I think that's dangerous. Cautionary tale. If you have elderly people in your life, talk them into putting their social media platform, their social media footprint onto private. The people that are going to find them, they can request a friend request, right? And your loved one can either approve it or not approve it. But it is so much safer to not let the whole world see who you are, because obviously. But that being said, I will go on the record right now as my humble opinion as a guy that does true crime a lot. We're going to find out that this is not somebody that's foreign to her. This isn't just going to be some rando dude that decided to grab an 84-year-old woman. This is targeted for a reason. It would be absolutely brain dead to not think they did this because of Savannah, right? Savannah's worth allegedly, $40 or $50 million, and she allegedly makes about $8 million a year. This is going to be one of those situations where I think this is just a money grab, and I hope it is, because she's far more likely to be alive if it is. Well, it's nice to see you. I am glad that you are here. A long time no see. Well, we're glad to have you back. The son-in-law allegedly is the number one suspect, but we got that from Ashley Banfield, and she's doubled down on it. She says no, honestly. But I also saw her in an interview. I think it was with Jesse. Might have been with Jesse. Anyway, the question was asked: was there any caveat to this? Did they say anything that sort of gives them an out? And she said what they said was that he could be the number one person or the number one suspect right now. That's kind of sketchy. He could be, he could not be. That to me doesn't sound as sure. But when pushed on it, she said no. But they definitely led me to believe that this is the guy. I understand where Run the World comes from when she says it's irresponsible to just put that out there like that, because it very well can trash a person's life and do it. Who makes $8 million a year? Well, obviously I do, between the super chats and the memberships and the, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. But here's the thing. I think she's very talented. I really do. We may not always agree on the political leanings or whatever, but I think, she went back to the Court TV days when Court TV was really Court TV. So did Ashley Banfield, actually. So I think that Savannah Guthrie is talented, and I feel so bad for her brother, and for her sister. And I really hope that her sister's not involved. I think that would just be so painful for them. But I am going to continue to pray, people. So I'm going to be the first to put up a 1 here. I am not losing hope that this is going to be a miracle. Elizabeth Smart, I realize, was considerably younger, but I think the whole world wrote off Elizabeth Smart. And 9 months later, literally 9 months later. So we don't know. She might have medication. They may have planned this so well that they have everything they need. But the family did come out, and I will talk about this later on today. Look for me at about 3:05, and I will give you all of the updates that are updatable to update at that update. Did you catch that? All right, it's a date. All right, people, I am Tommy. Between now and the next time I see you, get over there and check out my brother, the Johnny Scoville. He has got some seeds in here. Boy, the trolls are saying that he's a major seed smuggler. They're sending in the authorities. Woohoo! Bring it. The funnier than hell. They're literally saying, call the authorities. Boy, do I love the mentality online. But make sure you check out the Johnny Scoville. That would be Chase the Heat South America. He's going to be burning again. And that is my girl. Check out Relatable Reese at Relatable Reese, and you will thank me later. That Mona Lisa smile of hers. All right, people. I am Tommy, and I will see you on the next one. Between now and then, put a little love in your heart. God bless. By the way, if you missed my early morning stream today, we talked about journaling. I'm going to be doing that every day for a while, see if we can't get some more people working on themselves. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.